on to the last bit here of our Empire Express. And again, typically we try to stick with topics related to the Mets and Yankees, but when there's a topic going on in baseball that does have effect and Mets Yankees implications, we do want to cover it at length here on the show. And that's, of course, we're talking about the elbow epidemic, which is what I like to call it. But it is a pitching injury epidemic, to say the least. There's been a list of pitchers here, and now I will say Framber Valdez is on this list, but we're still monitoring his situation. Right now, he is day-to-day, but with the amount of news that's come out lately, can you blame me for adding him to this list? I mean, it's been absolutely ridiculous that out of the last, it seems like a couple of weeks, how many players have landed on our chart here. And now, Joe, I know there was you did some digging in on pitching trends over the last few years as opposed to injuries, innings pitch, velocity. Would you like to take a deep dive?
Yeah. So, I mean, listen, this is a problem. The MLB is the only league that seems to have this issue. NFL had a little bit of this with the quarterbacks this past season. Obviously, these things kind of fluctuate, but it seems like the pitching injuries are getting worse and worse. And here's a good chart, an example of the total UCL surgeries done for major and minor league pitchers combined. And as you can see, except for 2020, which you have to take with a grain of salt because it was a 60-game season. There was no minor league season. So there was a huge, huge dip in that stuff. It's been going up. And as we look at, we got a couple more charts here too. The total injuries for pitchers is skyrocketing. And this is a major issue for baseball. These are the stars. I mean, if Rich brings up this list again, these are star players. These are, I think we got 17, 18 guys on this list. How many of these guys are top 20 pitchers in baseball?
And that's not all of them.
Alcantara's a Cy Young Award winner. Bieber's a Cy Young. Cole, DeGrom's got 2 Cy Youngs. Kershaw's got 3 Cy Youngs. Now, listen, Kershaw, Verlander, Scherzer, those guys are older. They're in injury-prone years anyway. But these guys are young. Yuri Perez is a young guy. Kodai Senga is a young guy. Spencer Strider's a young guy. This is a problem. You are taking the biggest stars of the game and probably the most influential stars on a day-to-day level in baseball, the guys who probably drive the most ticket sales, because you are looking at who's starting. You know, Spencer Strider sells more tickets than AJ Smith-Shawver. I mean, that's just the bottom line. You're going to see these guys pitch, and these guys are all on the shelf for months, if not years at a time. This is a major issue with baseball, and everybody's bringing up the pitch clock. It's not the pitch clock. Here's a good chart here of the average fastball speed over basically the last 2 decades. It's been creeping up and up and up. You see, back in 2002, it was below 90 miles an hour. Now we're reaching the point where, and this chart's a little out of date too, it's probably over 95 at this particular point in time. And you have to wonder, what is the main cause of these injuries? You know, pitchers are pitching less, they're pitching harder, they're pitching with more effort, they're covering less innings, and they're spending more time on the IL. And I think it all has to do with velocity. All right.
Yes.
Just chase for the velocity. If you go online, if you go on YouTube, and I posted a couple of videos today, you see kids that are 17, 18, 19 years old, crow hopping, throwing weighted balls, trying to hit the 100 miles an hour on the gun, trying to spin the ball with measured spin at these quote unquote pitching labs. All of this is doing irreparable damage, and it is extending to the major leagues. It's not just what's happening in the major leagues. It's what these kids have done to their elbows, their shoulders, and their bodies before their bodies are mature enough to handle it. And that damage carries forward for into their major league careers. I think it's a massive problem, and baseball's got to do something to figure out how they can change this and how they can stop this.
I said it in our own group chat before. The major league starting pitcher is going the way of the NFL running back, where these guys are just getting absolutely worn out before they hit essentially free agency. They're just, their arms are falling apart, their elbows are getting destroyed. And the problem is, if you don't do this, if you don't try to throw 100. If you don't try to throw a slider 92 miles an hour, you're not going to make the majors. You'll never have a chance anyway. Yes, there are guys who, we mentioned in the chat that, the human arm's not made to, throw overhand and throw this hard. And yes, there are guys who are freaks of nature. There are your Nolan Ryans out there, your Roger Clemens of the world who some people are just kind of blessed with it. But most people aren't. The issue is, like Joe was saying, that they're in these labs and they're trying to throw harder and all that kind of stuff. And listen, you can get stronger. You can change your mechanics to have more, velocity and more spin, but you can't strengthen your ligaments. Like your ligaments are your ligaments. Yeah. It's the same, again, same things like the NFL. Like you could do all these like strength things, but like your concussions are concussions. Like your head's not getting any like stronger. Your brain's not getting any like more resistant. Your body's not, it can't handle it. I don't know what the answer is. Cause you can't put like, you can't put speed limits. You can't put like, oh, you can't throw a ball. You can't throw a slider that spins at this rate. So I have no idea what you do.
Yeah. And I think the big problem is too, I mean, the big thing, it's that with this velocity right now and all these issues here, I know the pitch clock's getting all the news time right now, but it's not the pitch clock. The pitch clock's just from last year. This issue started 10, 15, 20 years ago when these pitchers who are currently hurt were coming up through little league systems, going through high school, going through travel ball teams and all these other teams that they played on. That's when all the issues started. And everyone wants to throw the ball 100 miles per hour, 100 miles per hour, 100 miles per hour. When you're in little league and you're going through that middle school era, the only two pitches you should be throwing is a fastball, which shouldn't be that fast because you're that young, and a changeup. And those two pitches, just hammer those pitches. Forget about the breaking stuff. Forget about the K rates. Forget about all of that. Focus on location and consistent delivery.
But those pitches is what get you recognized by college programs, get you recognized by these specialized travel teams and agents. And if you don't throw these pitches, they don't recognize you. And that's a problem.
Honestly, we could make a case that the fans are a problem. All right, the fans love all the sexy pitchers. The fans want to see the ones throwing 100 miles per hour, and that's.
I disagree with that. I don't think you're right. Go back to the 90s to the chicks dig the long ball. I don't think anyone cares if someone's throwing 100. I really don't. There was a novelty to that.
No, yeah, they do.
But at this point, I don't know. Like I don't see a guy come in and I'm like, oh my god. Look at him. Look how hard he throws. Like, I don't get what I enjoy it because I think if he's like on my team, he's going to strike someone out. But like, I'm not enamored with it as I am with like a 500-foot home run.
But the media is. And if the media is doing it, they think the fans are doing it. Because, I mean, go back to the mid-2010s when Aroldis Chapman was really in his prime. And Aroldis Chapman every day was on ESPN. Oh, Aroldis Chapman, 101 miles per hour. Oh, 102 miles per hour. And it generated views for ESPN. Now, all of a sudden, everyone wants to be Aroldis Chapman. Everyone wants to go out there throwing 100 miles per hour now. Yeah, he's a freak. He's got other issues going on now.
He's also a bad guy, but like exactly. He is. But he's also one of those guys who has like a freak arm. Like he can do it, but because he can doesn't mean everyone else can.
Correct. And
well, that's the thing.
Pitchers were to go back to again location. Guys don't pitch to contact anymore, and again because college programs don't value it. MLB scouts no longer value it. But quite honestly, if you get these pitch to location guys low in the zone, in, out, hit all your spots, I don't care if you're throwing 88 miles per hour. If you're hitting your locations perfectly, changing speeds, different look, you're going to induce weak ground balls, pop-ups, weak fly balls. Those type of pitchers could go into the 8th inning more times than not. Those type of pitchers aren't going to blow out their UCLs every 5 years. Those are the guys who are going to give you consistent durability. But the league, the colleges, the schools, the scouts, nobody values that anymore. And a big part of it is because I think the media puts so much focus on these hard throwers. The fans, not all, a lot of fans became enamored with it. Now that's all everyone wants to focus on. And every kid's dad, every 10 years old dad thinks his kid's going to be the next 100 mile per hour $100 million contract guy, and they're not playing any other sports. They're playing baseball 12 months out of the year, going from league to league to league to league. Look at the best pitchers from the 80s and 90s. They were playing basketball, football, baseball, throwing only 6 months out of the year. It's a completely different world. Us as a society really have just framed the setup for failure with these arms, in my opinion, at least.
You guys make excellent points, and I don't even know if there's much I can touch on. I could extend the conversation with another question, but before I get to that, I did want to highlight a few chats though that I thought added well to the conversation. Our guy Mike Parziali, the body isn't built to throw 99, 50 plus times a game or 90 plus mile per hour sliders. Kind of piggyback on what TC Still says. The human arm is not designed to throw a baseball overhand, which it's not. It is not a natural motion. Pars again, in a world where we only need 4 to 5 innings, pitchers are going max effort every pitch. There is no pacing anymore, like a CC, Pettit, Cone, etc. Also, biggest issue to me is throwing sliders and curveballs around puberty, killing your developing elbows before they even get to the majors. And our guy Dane Huber, again, from NYY Underground, gripping the ball is a huge problem. If you have to grip the ball tighter and still throw max effort is a combo that shreds UCL ligaments. If a pitcher has to grip a ball harder, it hurts the arm. Last point that I caught was, from Swift here. I remember when Kyle Farnsworth were through 101, I thought that was the craziest thing. Now every team has 5 dudes in their bullpen that throw 101. So my question to extend the conversation here is not necessarily the blanket, what can MLB do, but when teams are trying to figure out how to build up on a playoff team come mid-season, do you think teams are going to look at this issue right now and maybe if they need starting pitching, avoid it altogether with this being an ongoing thing?
I mean, I think the solution is proving that you are the last guy standing. If you can find a way maybe to incorporate and the big teams aren't going to do this. They're going to pay for the velocity. They're going to pay for the top. The Yankees, the Mets, the Dodgers. These teams are just going to pay the money to stay competitive. It's one of the small teams that has to sit there and say, okay, we can't pay for the big velocity necessarily, but let's try and more or less moneyball it from the opposite end and say, we're going to get 5 guys that might be overlooked that are just going to give us 200 plus innings that aren't going to throw heat. And we're going to outlast the teams that lose their big pitchers. Like if the Rays lost 3 pitchers last year, Drew Rasmussen, Shane McClanahan, and Tyler Glass now, and they just replaced them. So I think it has to do with somebody's got to be successful doing the opposite of saying, I'm not going to pay big arm guys, flamethrowers. I'm going to go out and find the 4 or 5 guys that are going to pitch 92, 95, but are going to stay healthy every single time out.
The way of the running back in the NFL.
And I'm going to put rotation together that might not necessarily have a flamethrower, but it's going to have 4 guys hovering around a 4 ERA, but they all going to pitch 200 innings. And I'm going to win like that.
Yeah, I think so.
That's how that changes.
There's talk in the chat also about, tack on the ball, which I think has been an issue and pitchers have complained about it. I frankly think that the what they need to do is you need to limit the amount of pitchers on a roster. When you have so many pitchers that you can afford to just blow through them and say, you guys need to throw 100 miles an hour. If a team had less pitchers, you can't blow them out like that. You have to, you can't afford to let your starters go 4 2/3 innings every day. If starters have to pace themselves to go 6-7 innings, they're going to be healthier, and then the relievers are going to be pitching less, and then you're also spacing that out. I don't know, but then teams are still going to say, well, yeah, but we can just we'll hope we get lucky. So it's
I agree with you, Tom, and I think in part what they've done with the pitch clock is to try and move baseball back to that where pitchers have to conserve their energy, where pitchers have to start the game out by not throwing 100. They have to do what Justin Verlander has done his whole career. He starts the game out throwing 94, and by the 7th, 8th inning, he's throwing 98 because he paced himself. The problem with baseball and the problem in what we've seen, and the shift is a microcosm of this, the analytic community these labs, these math guys who sit there and come up with a formula to win and think that they know the best way to win, say, don't adjust to the game. The game has to adjust to you. So what do? You don't adjust to the shift. You hit the ball over the shift. You don't adjust to the pitch clock. You throw through the pitch clock, and you throw hard because hard is what gets guys out. And we have this inability in a game that is made of adjustments. Baseball is a game of adjustments, start to finish. It always has been. We have turned around and said, no, we have a formula, and if you follow the formula, you're going to win. Don't adjust what you do, and we'll figure out the rest. But that is a lab scenario. They don't realize that human beings play this game. I hate to just dump it on analytics, but that's where this comes from. The idea that we can formulate how to play the game, but the formula can never take into account the human behind the formula. What the body's limits are. They just say, this is what velocity gets out. Go with velocity. They don't think of the consequence of doing that on the human body, which is not calculable.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with everything Joe just said with the analytics part too. And again, analytics is a tool to help you build a roster, help you put guys in the right situations. But we've become so enamored by analytics that the managerial job is almost useless. You could take any bum off the street, say, here's what the analytics said, follow this and we'll pay you. You're taking the human element out of a human game. Some guys just perform better in the clutch. Some guys can't perform in the clutch. Some guys are having a hot streak. Analytics doesn't believe in hot and cold streaks. So I completely agree. I think analytics is also a big part of it. The injuries specifically, I think, stem from an issue that started 10, 15 years ago with how these kids come up through their development and into the younger systems into the big leagues. But analytics, I think, does play a role as well.
All righty. Tom, does Roback by chance make soft